CBDC may be a solution in search of a problem. So there are countries who are not believing in the future of this kind of digital currency, but also there are intelligence organizations, and I mean in the West, that are pointing the finger to China, looking at, let's say, a sort of digital yuan as a way to avoid sanction and avoid using SWIFT. What's your take on this, Andrew?
A couple of things. Maybe I'll start, if I may, by picking up on Xiaogeng's comments about renminbi internationalization. He and I were working together about probably 10 years ago now on the question of renminbi internationalization as well. I think completely agree with his comments, and it comes down a little bit to being more specific. What do we mean by internationalization? And classically, it means the use of the currency as a reserve asset, and the dollar took over from the pound sterling, and will the renminbi at some point in the future take over from the US dollar? And basically, Xiaogeng's answered that question about the need for questions on institutions. Short term, there's a question of benefits and its use of the use of the renminbi in trade. And if I'm sitting now somewhere maybe in the UAE, and I have a choice between pushing a button and paying in renminbi, and the trade settles immediately because I'm using the CBDC, versus going through the traditional correspondent banking system, and it takes me a few weeks, or maybe it's just a few days, and it costs me more. Well, maybe I will do that trade in renminbi. And for that instant, as it were, I'm happy to do the trade in renminbi, as long as I can immediately switch out of renminbi through some offshore market into dirhams or dollars or whatever. And in that narrow sense, the CBDC may, or the leadership of the renminbi may give China some advantage. But as I touched on earlier, China is also very heavily engaged in getting the operationalization of working across digital currencies, which would remove that need, exactly as in Project Arbor between Saudi and the UAE, who've already said, we don't need to decide on the dirham or the rial. We can just create a mechanism where we trade together in the currencies we each have. And this is primarily a domestic question. Now we come to the UK. I was giving some thought to the e-renminbi just as the House of Lords came out with its report, and I had two reactions to it. One is it's a high quality piece of analytical work, going very much along the lines that Srini talked about, saying, well, let's look at this technology of a digital currency and understand what is the benefit, what is the problem it's trying to solve. And it may be it's at a lower cost than cash, for example. It's a digital payment. I won't repeat all the things Srini said, but all those benefits are there, and they go through them one by one. And essentially, they conclude that the UK doesn't really need this, that the UK already, as Xiaogeng was saying, the consumer in the retail space already, money is digital. I tap with a contactless card, or it's in my Apple phone or whatever. And what does it mean that it's a different type of digital cash? That's a distinction without a difference from the point of view of the consumer. And we still have issues of digital financial inclusion in the UK, and some people not having bank accounts. But is this really the best way to solve it? And so on the one hand, I think this was a very focused piece of work, which stepped through saying the benefits need to be domestic. That's going to be driving the adoption. Do they apply? Answer, not really. So that's one route, and one can replicate that, I think, for many, especially more developed economies. But indeed, similar things may apply partly in China, because China is so advanced in digital payments for individuals. But the second angle was, it struck me very much the sort of the sophisticated academic musings of an incumbent economy, that looking at the world and saying, this looks like change, it's a little bit uncertain, gosh, I see risk everywhere, why would I even do this? And I said to someone, it's a little bit someone sitting around saying, why do we need mobile telephones anyway? Fixed lines are perfectly okay, as long as you can arrange to be in the right place at the right time. And it was in